Seattle, Washington, October 13, 11:47 p.m. The rain hadn't stopped for hours. It slammed the concrete like nails driven into the city's skin. Downtown Seattle shimmered in the night, the soaked streets glowing with a sickly orange hue under flickering streetlights. Sirens whined somewhere in the distance, muffled by the thunder that rolled low and mean across the sky. In the heart of that storm, a rusted van creaked to a stop in front of an old, barely lit gas station. It was the kind of place you only stopped at if your tank was dry and your soul already belonged to the devil. A single bulb buzzed above the door, casting a weak pool of light. The gas station was otherwise silent, until the van's back doors swung open with a violent slam. Out stepped something wrong. He was tall, his frame awkward like someone forced into their own skin. His clothes were soaked, an orderly's uniform from West Graven Asylum, torn and bloodied. But it was his face, or the thing hiding it, that screamed horror. A crude, hand-stitched scarecrow mask, molded from rotting burlap and dried sinew, clung to his head. Its mismatched button eyes were dull and soulless. The mouth, crudely carved, was sewn into a grin too wide to be human. This was Benny. Benny wasn't a myth. He wasn't a boogeyman whispered about around campfires. He was real, and 27 bodies deep. A butcher of families, a ghost of alleyways, a shadow that crawled through windows when the city blinked. They had caught him once. Sedated him. Caged him. But monsters don't die in padded rooms, they wait. And now, he was out. Inside the gas station, a young cashier named Kyle scrolled through his phone behind the counter. He barely registered the chime of the front door. "Yo, man, we're closing in 10, Kyle said without looking up. The figure said nothing. The silence tugged at Kyle's attention. He glanced up, and froze. The figure stood in the doorway, dripping wet, head tilted. Kyle's eyes locked on the mask. "What the hell, man?" Kyle's voice cracked. "Is this a prank? Halloween's 2 weeks away." The figure took one slow step forward. Kyle's hand instinctively reached under the counter. "I got mace," he warned. "I swear to God, I'll." Another step. Kyle's hand trembled as he pulled the can of mace free, raising it with shaking fingers. "Don't." Too late. With unnatural speed, Benny crossed the distance and vaulted the counter. The mace sprayed wide, completely missing. Benny's gloved hand seized Kyle's wrist, bending it until bone cracked. Kyle screamed. The sound barely made it out before the blade emerged. A sharpened meat cleaver, rusted from time, gleamed under the flickering fluorescent light. The first swing took Kyle's fingers. The second carved through his jaw. Blood fountained against the candy racks as Kyle's body spasmed in place, eyes wide in stunned silence. Benny didn't kill to silence, he killed to music. With a click, he activated an old cassette player from his pocket. It whirred to life with static before unleashing an eerie, warped lullaby. He tilted his head, dancing in slow circles like a child spinning in a field of corpses. He painted the counter red. For miles away, Raven Apartments. Samantha, Sam Ridley stood at her third-story window, watching the storm. Her coffee had gone cold in her hands. A deep unease stirred in her chest, but she couldn't explain why. At 23, Sam worked as a tattoo artist in Pike Place. Her apartment was cramped but cozy, lined with old punk posters, skull figurines, and dried roses hanging upside down in mason jars. Her cat, Luna, purred lazily across the radiator. But tonight, none of her comforts dulled the unease in her gut. She sighed, setting the mug down. Flashes of the news from earlier still played in her head. Breaking, escape at West Graven Asylum. Authorities confirm multiple deaths, serial killer Benedict Harper is presumed at large. Sam had clicked off the TV. The name Benedict Harper meant nothing to her, at first. But there was something in the way the reporter had said it. Something cold. She'd Googled him. What she found had left her breathless. The scarecrow mask. The bodies. The Dysed slayings, 7 people in one night back in 2021, all hacked into pieces and left in twisted displays. But it was his mugshot that hit her hardest. His eyes. Dead. But, familiar. She didn't know him. Not really. But something in her bones told her she should have. Sam turned from the window, rubbing her arms. Thunder cracked again. The lights in her apartment flickered. Luna hissed and darted under the couch. Great, she muttered, grabbing her phone and heading to the kitchen. The phone buzzed. A message from her coworker, Jess. Jess, you see the news? That psycho Benny escaped. I swear if you leave me to close up tomorrow I'll haunt your ass. Sam smirked. Sam, not a chance. I'm not dying in that shop. Not tonight. A knock. She jumped. It came from the front door. She froze. Another knock, this one louder. Who is it? She called. No answer. Her breath caught. Her heart thudded in her chest like fists against a coffin lid. Slowly, she crept toward the door, peering through the peephole. Nothing. No one. She locked the deadbolt. Then she turned, and screamed. Standing behind her was a woman, pale, drenched in rain, with wide, hollow eyes. Sam, the woman asked. It's me. Claire. Sam's heart nearly exploded. How the hell did you get in here? She gasped. Claire trembled. Your back door, it was unlocked. I didn't know where else to go. Sam stared. Claire was her half-sister. Estranged. The last time she saw her, they were kids, separated by the system and adopted out. What are you doing here? Sam asked, stunned. I need to tell you something, Claire whispered. It's about Benny. Sam's blood ran cold. Back at the gas station, 12:09 a.m. Police arrived too late. The crime scene was a gallery of carnage. Kyle's body was posed like a grotesque display, arms crossed, face hollowed, and his mouth stuffed with candy bars. The cleaver was stuck in the register like a signature. But the most disturbing part wasn't the gore. It was the message. Carved into the wall behind the counter in dripping red letters. I'm coming home. Detective Maynard, a veteran of the Dysed case, stared at the message and muttered, Jesus Christ, he's doing it again. Back at Sam's apartment, 12:24 a.m. He's obsessed with you, Sam, Claire whispered. He always was. Sam shook her head. I don't understand. Why would he care about me? Because, you're his daughter. The words hit like a freight train. No, Sam said, backing up. That's not possible. Claire nodded. You were adopted before I was. You were just a baby when they took you. But I stayed. I remember him. The mask. The way he used to talk to you like you were his little doll. Sam staggered back, her legs weak. I didn't want to believe it either, Claire said. But when I saw the news, I knew he'd come for you. You were always his favorite. Tears welled in Sam's eyes. Why didn't anyone tell me? Claire's voice broke. Because they were trying to protect you. From what he did. From who he is. Suddenly, the lights cut out. Total darkness. Claire gasped. He's here. From the alley below, music began to play. A warped lullaby. The same one from Benny's cassette player. Sam's blood turned to ice. She rushed to the window. There, in the middle of the street, stood a figure. Masked. Motionless. Looking up at her window. He raised one hand, and waved. Seattle, Washington, Raven Apartments, October 14, 12:28 a.m. The scarecrow mask stared up at them from the soaked street like a grotesque omen. Its sewn mouth curled into that same stitched grin that had haunted Sam ever since Claire's revelation. Her breath caught. She didn't blink. Couldn't. He found me, Sam whispered, voice trembling. Beside her, Claire backed away from the window. We have to go. Now. The lullaby still floated up from the street below, warbled and scratchy, like an old child's toy left to rot in a graveyard. The melody sank its claws into Sam's nerves, taunting her with something primal, familiar, but buried deep. It pulled at memories that didn't belong to her. Ones from before she could speak. Before she knew words like father or death. Claire grabbed her wrist. We don't have time. But how did he find me? How? Sam's voice cracked. I don't know. But if he's watching you, he's been watching for days. Weeks maybe. A loud bang echoed from the apartment below. Both women froze. Another bang, heavier now. Closer. Third floor stairwell, Claire whispered. He's coming up. Seattle PD, Downtown Precinct, 12:32 a.m. Detective Maynard barked orders at officers while examining the photos from the gas station crime scene. He couldn't shake the unease crawling in his gut. Harper doesn't move like a man, he muttered. He moves like a predator. Every step's deliberate. Calculated. We missed something. He stared again at the wall where "I'm coming home" had been carved. Home, he said aloud. But he's got no home. Parents gone. No known associates. The asylum was his last address. A younger officer approached. Sir. We traced the van he stole. CCTV picked it up just outside the Raven Apartments, 20 minutes ago. Maynard's eyes widened. Get me everything on those tenants. Now. Raven Apartments, 12:35 a.m. Sam and Claire stumbled into the hallway, the emergency lights flickering red like warning beacons. The hum of Benny's music still echoed faintly through the walls. Behind them, the stairwell door creaked open. Sam didn't look back. She couldn't. They reached the elevator, it was dead. Power out. Stairs, Claire whispered, pointing to the opposite end of the hall. Sam hesitated, glancing back. The stairwell door they'd just come from was wide open now. No sign of him. Just the darkness. They bolted down the other stairwell, shoes thudding on metal steps, breathing sharp and shallow. On the second-floor landing, they paused. A tenant's door hung open. Inside, silence. But the smell. Copper. Blood. Claire glanced in. A body lay sprawled across the kitchen floor, an older man, eyes gouged out, mouth split ear to ear. His hands were nailed to the floor with rusted scissors. Sam looked away, gagging. He's leaving messages, Claire said, pale. Always does. Why the hell me? Sam cried. Why now? Claire looked at her, pain deep in her eyes. Because you're the last thing he believes belongs to him. Flashback, West Graven Asylum, 1 year ago. Benny sat in a dim room, restrained, barely moving. A recorder blinked red on the table in front of him. Across from him, a therapist, Dr. Levin, spoke softly. Tell me about the child, Benedict. Benny tilted his head. She was mine. My angel. My little seed. Seed? Dr. Levin repeated, disturbed. Benny chuckled, the sound dry like rust scraping metal. You bury a seed deep. Feed it blood. It grows. But they stole her. Ripped her from the soil. His fingers twitched. I want her back. She's still mine. Back in present, 12:41 a.m. Sam and Claire burst into the alley behind the building. The rain had softened but the air was still heavy, still electric. The warped lullaby faded behind them, but the fear didn't. "Where are we going?" Sam panted. "My car's 3 blocks down." "Come on." They ran, shadows flickering under every passing light. At every corner, Sam expected to see him. Standing, waiting, grinning behind the mask. But he wasn't there. Not yet. At the end of the alley, something glinted. A figure stepped out. Tall. Broad. Something dragging in his hand. "Run!" Claire screamed. They bolted left, but Sam slipped, her foot sliding in a slick puddle. She crashed hard into the sidewalk. The cleaver swung through empty air where her head had just been. Claire grabbed her, yanking her up as the scarecrow figure advanced. Down the block, headlights flashed. A beat-up Toyota. "There!" Claire screamed. The driver, a disheveled man in his 20s, honked frantically. "Get in!" They dove in as the scarecrow slammed the cleaver into the back windshield, cracking the glass. The car peeled off, tires screeching into the night. 12:56 a.m., Safe House Motel, Room 9. The man who saved them introduced himself as Danny, a night shift janitor who'd recognized Sam from her tattoo shop and followed them after seeing the news. "You're the girl he's after, right?" he asked, rubbing his jaw. "The one from the old Dicehead case." Sam looked stunned. "How do you know that?" Danny shifted nervously. "Because my sister was one of his victims. In the original spree. Her name was Hannah." Claire looked away. "He always left clues," Danny said. "The newspaper clippings. The tape cassettes. The art. He thought he was making masterpieces. Called each kill a scene. He thinks he's directing a play." Sam's voice broke. "Why me?" Danny turned to her, serious. "Because you're the final act." 1:12 a.m., somewhere else in Seattle. Inside an abandoned theater on 3rd Avenue, Benny lit a candle. Dozens more surrounded him. On the stage were mannequins, each dressed in tattered clothing, each wearing handmade masks. He moved between them, placing props. Scissors. Ribbons. Broken mirrors. A small shrine stood at the center of the stage. A photo of a baby girl. Burned around the edges. He knelt before it and whispered, "She's coming. My angel. My little blood seed." He reached for a nearby body, a man in a suit, still twitching, mouth sewn shut. Benny carved a deep S into his chest and stood back, admiring the blood flow. "Scene 2, he said softly. "The daughter returns." 2:02 a.m., Safe House Motel. Sam stared into the mirror, shaking. Her eyes were red. Her mind, fractured. All she could see was that mask. That mouth. That impossibly wide grin. Claire entered quietly, sitting beside her. "I know this is too much," Claire whispered. "But he won't stop. Not until one of you is dead." Sam turned to her. "Then I'll kill him first." Claire's eyes widened. "You don't know what he is," she warned. "He's not just a man anymore. He's something else. The asylum changed him. Fed whatever darkness was already inside." Sam clenched her fists. "Then it's time I stop running." 2:44 a.m., downtown police station. Detective Maynard received the full tenant list of Raven Apartments. One name stood out. One that hadn't been there before. Samantha Ridley. DOB, November 18, 2001. Adopted, sealed records. Maynard's eyes narrowed. He picked up the phone. I need adoption records from 23 years ago. Name, Samantha Ridley. Search for any connection to Benedict Harper. A long silence. Then the response, Sir, there is one. She was born Sarah Harper. Maynard stood, heart pounding. Oh God. He's hunting his own daughter. 3:06 a.m., Safe House Motel, final scene of chapter. Outside room 9, a cassette tape rested on the welcome mat. A note stuck to it with a red thumbtack. The note read. Scene 3 begins at dawn. Sam stepped out, saw the tape, and picked it up with trembling hands. Inside, they played it. The warped lullaby began again, but this time, Benny spoke. My little seed. My masterpiece. They tried to bury us, but we grow. Come home, angel. I've saved you a place, right on stage. His voice dropped to a whisper. I'm close now. So close. Curtains rising soon. Seattle, Safe House Motel, Room 9, October 14, 3:10 a.m. The cassette tape hissed as it ended, leaving the room in thick, suffocating silence. The warped lullaby still echoed in Sam's head like a haunting she couldn't scrub out. Benny's voice, gravelly, obsessed, full of rotten affection, had curled around her like a noose. Scene 3 begins at dawn. Claire sat stiffly on the motel bed, her eyes glassy, distant. Danny paced near the window, peering through the blinds at the empty parking lot below. The storm had passed, but the darkness outside somehow felt deeper. More predatory. Sam stood still, tape recorder in hand, breathing hard. He's setting the stage for something. Of course he is, Danny said, teeth clenched. He always does. It's not enough for Benny to kill. He performs it. Each murder is a scene in his sick little theater. He wants me in the final act, Sam whispered. Claire finally looked up. No. Not just in it. He wants you to be it. His daughter. His muse. You're the reason he escaped. You're the show. Danny turned, frustrated. He left a cassette on our doorstep in the middle of the night. He was here. He's playing with us. And we're wasting time, Sam snapped. He won't wait long. He's counting down. We need to find him before he finds me again. Danny nodded. There's only one place in the city twisted enough to call itself a stage and still forgotten by everyone else. Sam narrowed her eyes. Where? Danny's voice lowered. The Orpheum Theater. It was condemned in '98. Benny used to work there. Back before the killings. Claire's voice cracked. That's where it all started, isn't it? Danny nodded grimly. And I bet that's where he plans to end it. Seattle, the Orpheum Theater, 4:02 a.m. The Orpheum stood like a fossil of forgotten nightmares. Its facade was cracked and draped in ivy, windows shattered like broken eyes. The marquee was still faintly readable beneath the grime, coming soon, Death's Encore. They parked across the street in silence. Mist curled across the sidewalk. Street lamps flickered like dying memories. Something about the building pulsed. Alive. Hungry. Claire shivered. This place feels wrong. Because it is, Danny said, chambering around in the pistol he'd brought. Half of Benny's original spree started here. The props, the mannequins, the dismembered bodies posed like actors. He turned the stage into a mausoleum. Sam opened the glove box and found a flashlight. She clicked it on, and its pale beam cut through the gloom like a scalpel. Let's finish the play. Inside the Orpheum, 4:17 a.m. The air was cold and stale, thick with mildew, rot, and something older, like dried blood soaked into the walls. The theater's lobby had become a twisted art gallery, Polaroids of victims lined the walls, all nailed up in haphazard grids. Faces screaming. Eyes empty. Mouth sewn shut. Each photo was signed. B.H. Sam stopped in front of one, a woman in her 20s. Torso opened, entrails arranged like a bouquet. Claire looked away. Danny cursed under his breath. He's not just showing off, Sam whispered. He's telling me something. A pattern. A message. From deeper inside, a door creaked. Danny raised the pistol. Someone's here. A low hum began to rise, familiar. The lullaby. But this time, it wasn't coming from a tape. It was being played live, on an old, out-of-tune piano. Claire backed toward Sam. He's on stage. Sam nodded slowly. That's where he wants me. The auditorium, main stage, 4:22 a.m. They entered through the left wing, behind the dusty red curtains. The stage stretched out like a giant open wound. Candles flickered across the floor in tight circles. Mannequins lined the front row, dressed in moth-eaten costumes, faces painted with crude smiles and blood. And there, center stage, sat Benny. Behind the piano. He swayed as he played, each note off-key, each chord wrong. His mask was darker now, wet with something fresh. In the dim candlelight, it looked almost alive. He stopped playing. Slowly, he turned his head. Sam stepped forward. Her hands shook, but her voice was steady. It's me you want. So here I am. Benny stood. Claire pulled her back, but Sam held her ground. You don't have to do this, she said. You don't have to finish this scene. Benny reached into his coat and pulled out an old teddy bear, mangled, charred, one eye missing. He tossed it at her feet. Sam stared. Something deep inside her cracked. I gave you that, Benny rasped. His voice was raw. Unfiltered. Like gravel through a throat made of razors. Before they took you. You were mine. Danny stepped out, gun raised. Back away from her. Now. Benny didn't flinch. Instead, he pulled a remote from his coat. Don't. Danny barked. Click. The stage floor creaked, and opened. A trap door. From below, screaming. Danny ran toward the edge and looked down. Oh God. Inside the orchestra pit were 3 people, alive, barely. They were tied in place, bleeding, hooked to wires. An electric setup connected to stage lights, waiting to ignite. They were the stage crew, missing for days. This is the final scene, Benny growled. A family reunion. A sacrifice. And then, curtain call. He lunged. The gun fired. Once. Twice. One shot grazed Benny's shoulder, spinning him off balance. He fell into the pit with a roar, dragging a curtain with him. The lights shorted. Sparks erupted. Go. Danny yelled, grabbing Sam. Claire pulled her arm, too late. The mannequins moved. Not all of them, but some. Benny had hidden more bodies among them. They weren't mannequins. They were rigged corpses, twitching with electrical pulses, moaning, swinging arms with blades nailed to their hands. Sam screamed as one lunged. Danny opened fire again, headshot. The thing collapsed. They ran backstage, dodging the carnage. Sam sobbed as the building trembled. Behind them, Benny climbed from the pit, his arm mangled. Mask torn at the jaw. His eyes, human, but completely devoid of soul, locked on hers. He whispered, voice gurgling, come home. Backstage tunnel, 4:37 a.m. The trio found an old maintenance tunnel, leading under the theater. Pipes hissed and leaked. Blood smeared the walls, fresh. He's bleeding, Claire said. He's hurt. Not enough, Sam whispered. He won't stop. Up ahead, the tunnel split in two. Danny went left. I'll scout. Stay here. Seconds passed. Then, gunshot. Silence. Danny? Sam called. No answer. Claire grabbed her. We have to go. Sam pulled free. No. I can't keep running. She reached into Danny's dropped bag, found another pistol. Loaded. Cold in her grip. I'm ending this. Back on stage, 4:49 a.m. Sam emerged alone. The lights flickered back on. Benny waited. Bloodied. Limping. But standing. He clutched the remote. I saved you a seat, he growled. Sam raised the pistol. I'm not your daughter, she said coldly. You're not my father. You're a monster. Benny tilted his head. But you are me. My seed. I planted you in death. You grew strong. Sam aimed. You don't get the final word. She fired. Once. Twice. 3 times. Benny staggered, then fell backward, off the stage. Silence. She approached the edge. Looked down. He was gone. 5:02 a.m., police arrive. Sirens lit up the theater. Backup arrived too late, again. Claire sat outside in a blanket, shaking. Sam, covered in blood, watched the sunrise through broken glass. Detective Maynard approached. He's not dead, is he? She asked. Maynard was silent. Then, we didn't find a body. Sam's jaw clenched. Then the play's not over. In the shadows, unknown time. Benny limped through the underground tunnel, clutching his side. He pulled off the remains of his mask and stared at the inside lining, where a burned photo of Sam was stitched into the fabric. He smiled. Encore, he whispered. Seattle, October 14, 7:02 a.m. 6 hours after Benny's escape from West Graven Asylum. The city woke slowly, blinking through clouds of smoke and sirens. The police had cordoned off the Orpheum Theater, now officially listed as a biohazard crime scene. News vans lined the street like vultures pecking at a fresh carcass. Cameras rolled. Reporters whispered Benny's name like it was cursed. Seattle shaken by last night's massacre at the long-abandoned Orpheum Theater, one broadcast said. Authorities believe it to be the work of Benedict Harper, a.k.a., the Scarecrow Killer, who escaped from West Graven just hours before the carnage began. Inside a mobile trauma unit across the street, Sam Ridley sat on a gurney, wrapped in a thermal blanket, blood still drying in her hair. She hadn't spoken in over an hour. Not since they pulled her out of the theater. Not since she shot her father. If he was her father. If he was even human anymore. Claire sat beside her, her voice hoarse. You saved lives last night. Sam didn't respond. She stared ahead, jaw clenched, fingers twitching beneath the blanket like they were remembering the weight of the gun. Detective Maynard entered, flanked by 2 officers. He looked older than he had 6 hours ago. Pale. Hollowed out. He cleared his throat. Miss Ridley, we found 3 survivors in the theater's sub-basement. You saved them. But Benny, he's gone again. We searched every tunnel, every maintenance shaft. It's like he vanished. Sam finally looked up. Her voice was low. Dry. He won't stay hidden for long. He wants an audience. Maynard nodded slowly. And you think you're still the main act? Sam's eyes darkened. No. I think I'm the target. Underground, location unknown, October 14, 7:45 a.m. The tunnel beneath the city ran deep, old utility corridors from the 1950s, long since abandoned. Mold coated the walls. Rats skittered through pools of stagnant water. A soft thump echoed. Then a dragging sound. Benny limped into a flickering chamber. One arm hung broken at the elbow. His shoulder was pierced by a nail. His mask was gone, but the face underneath was worse. His skin was a roadmap of scars, burns, and hand-stitched wounds. His mouth, split wider than it should be, hung slightly open as he panted through the pain. He dropped to his knees. In the center of the room was an old mirror. Cracked. Covered in red smears, some blood, some paint. Words were scrawled across the glass. "She's not ready. She forgot who she was. But I remember." He reached into his coat. Pulled out a photograph. Sam, age 5. Holding a doll. Sitting on a porch. Smiling. Unaware of the man taking the photo. Benny traced her image with a filthy fingertip. "Soon, little seed. Soon you'll remember what they buried." Seattle PD, Evidence Room, 9:12 a.m. Detective Maynard sat with Danny, the janitor who'd helped Sam and Claire escape. Danny looked exhausted, hand bandaged, his eyes hollow. "He's not going to stop," Danny said. "You know that, right? This isn't about killing anymore. It's about finishing something." Maynard nodded. "We've been digging through old asylum files. The ones they never released. Turns out Benny was part of a secret program, experimental therapy back in 2005. Danny raised an eyebrow. "What kind of therapy?" "Reconstructive trauma immersion," Maynard said grimly. They were trying to cure serial tendencies by having the subjects relive their formative kills, over and over again. But with actors. Stage setups. Play therapy. "Like a stage play," Danny whispered. Maynard nodded. "He didn't just escape the asylum. He brought the therapy with him. He's not just playing the killer, he believes this is all part of the show." Danny sat back. "And Sam?" Maynard swallowed. "We think she was in one of the original acts. When she was a baby. They erased it. Gave her a new name. But somewhere inside her, she remembers." Elsewhere in Seattle, October 14, 10:03 a.m. Sam sat alone on a rooftop, staring out over the city. Claire had gone to get food. The wind tugged at Sam's hair, but she didn't move. Something inside her felt unmoored. The tape recordings. The memories. The teddy bear. And the voice that whispered in her head now, faint but growing louder. "You used to love the stage. You would sit and clap for me. You were my sunshine. My audience. My girl." She squeezed her eyes shut. "Shut up." But the memories came anyway. A dark room. Red curtains. A lullaby playing softly. A man humming while he painted the walls with something warm and wet. She was there. She was always there. Underground tunnel, 11:11 a.m. Benny prepared the next scene. A city electrical worker had gone missing 2 hours ago. Now he sat, strapped to an old dentist's chair in the darkness, his tongue nailed to the armrest, his eyes fluttering with panic. Benny spun slowly in front of him, dressed in a new costume, half scarecrow, half surgeon. Burlap stitched into medical scrubs. Blood-stained gloves. He placed an old cassette recorder on the victim's lap. Pressed play. Scene 4, The Waking Seed. In this act, the girl begins to remember. She rejects her name. She becomes, mine again. Benny leaned in close. She will remember you too. Then he began to cut. Downtown Seattle, Police Bulletin, 12:04 p.m. Breaking, Seattle PD confirmed the discovery of another victim believed to be linked to Benedict Harper, a.k.a., the Scarecrow Killer. The body was found beneath a utility station on 4th Avenue, posed in what officials describe as a theatrical medical tableau. A message was scrawled in blood on the wall: "The seed is awakening." Claire and Sam's hideout, 12:15 p.m. The news report played on the small motel TV. Sam sat in silence, jaw locked, while Claire paced. "You need to get out of town," Claire said. "Let them hunt him down. You're not a weapon, Sam. You're not part of his nightmare." Sam stood slowly. Walked to the bathroom. Stared at her reflection. But her face was wrong. Not her, younger. She blinked, and the reflection blinked half a second late. "My little seed." Sam picked up the scissors from the sink. Cut a lock of her hair. Let it fall into the drain. Claire watched, horrified. "Sam. What are you doing?" "I'm remembering." Flashback, the memory that shouldn't exist. She was 4. Sitting in a dark room. A red curtain in front of her. A single chair. A puppet stage. Benny was behind the curtain, wearing a mask. But not the scarecrow mask, this one was porcelain, smooth and white. He sang to her. "Don't look away, my little seed. The stage is set for you to lead." And then, the red splatter behind the curtain. The scream that didn't last long. The laughter. And she'd clapped. Because she didn't understand what she was watching. Claire, 12:25 p.m. Claire backed away. "No. No, Sam, he did this to you. This isn't you." Sam looked at her, eyes wide but eerily calm. "But it was me. I was there. I saw everything. I applauded. You were a child." "I loved him," Sam whispered. "And he loved me. In his own broken, evil way." She picked up the gun again. Claire's voice broke. "Where are you going?" "To finish the play. Downtown tunnels, 1:01 p.m. Sam entered the tunnels alone, flashlight trembling in her hand. Every step echoed with dripping water, rusted pipes, and the lullaby, faint but growing louder. She followed it. Down. Deeper. At the end of one corridor, a red curtain hung. Behind it, a stage. And Benny. Waiting. His mask stitched anew. A single spotlight above him. He clapped. "You remembered." Sam raised the gun. "It ends here." He stepped closer. "You brought the finale with you. Good girl." She fired. Once. He dropped to his knees, gasping. She stood over him. And Benny laughed, blood bubbling in his throat. "You finally took the stage, Angel. Bravo." The rain hadn't stopped in days. It drummed on the rooftops and gutters of Seattle like a war cry for the damned. The air stank of rust, mold, and blood, a cocktail that only intensified with each passing hour Benny roamed the streets. The city was suffocating under his presence. Silent. Still. And scared. But in one small apartment in Capitol Hill, the fear was breathing, screaming, and crawling just beneath the skin. Jade sat alone at the edge of her bed, a tangle of research notes and old newspaper clippings scattered around her like bones. Her eyes were bloodshot, her fingers trembling from caffeine and panic. What began as a desperate attempt to understand who Benny was had become a descent into a black hole of death, lies, and the grotesque tapestry of a man forged by violence. She finally had names. Photos. Families. Stories. All of them victims. All of them connected. Each was once a patient or staff member at Westbridge Asylum, the same place Benny escaped from. And the same asylum Jade's mother had worked in during her 20s. The realization landed like a punch in her chest. Benny wasn't just killing at random. He was unearthing the past, one corpse at a time. Her phone buzzed violently against the floor, its screen lighting up with a number she didn't recognize. She hesitated. Answering meant accepting that the nightmare was real. Ignoring it meant dying blind. She answered. "Jade," came a voice, hoarse and panicked. "It's Mason. Detective Harlow gave me your number. You need to get out. Now." "Mason?" She blinked, surprised. "The journalist? I broke the Westbridge story last year. You're on his list. Benny's not just after revenge. It's ritual. He's recreating, no, revisiting, the scene of his death one person at a time. Everyone tied to that night. Your mother was one of the last staff members present when they butchered him. Or tried to. My mom died in a car crash," Jade replied, her voice weak. "No, Jade. I think that was staged. And I think Benny knows the truth." Her blood ran cold. There was a knock at the door. A slow, deliberate knock. Not a friendly one. Not a neighbor. Not Amazon. She dropped the phone, staring wide-eyed at the door. She didn't breathe. Didn't blink. The knock came again. She reached under her bed, fumbling for the baseball bat she kept for protection. Her fingers gripped the wood like it was her last thread of sanity. Another knock. Harder. Then silence. For a moment, she thought maybe it was her imagination, until the lights in her apartment flickered and died. The silence was now a beast. Thick. Heavy. Wrapping around her throat. She moved slowly to the window, bat raised. Rain smeared the glass, obscuring the view, but she could make out the silhouette of a man across the street. Standing. Watching. Unmoving. The scarecrow mask. Straw hair. Tattered trench coat soaked through with rain and rot. Benny. He raised a hand, not to wave, but to point. Straight at her. Then he walked into the alley. Gone. Jade gasped, grabbed her keys, and bolted. She didn't care where she was going, only that it was away. Mason's apartment was a cluttered fortress of madness and obsession. News clippings, red strings, and Polaroids covered every inch of the walls. His laptop was open to a grainy video feed of what looked like Westbridge Asylum, or what remained of it. He let Jade in, locking the door behind her with 3 separate bolts. "Christ, he really is after me," Jade muttered. Mason nodded grimly. "He's following a pattern. Every victim, they weren't just targets. They were witnesses. People present the night Westbridge staged his execution. What they didn't know, what we didn't know, was that Benny survived." Jade stared at the wall where Benny's face, or what was left of it, was pinned like a trophy. Post-surgery. Post-electroshock. Post-fire. Twisted. Burned. His skin was rebuilt in fragments, but his rage had remained intact. A living corpse with a hate that aged like poison. "There's one more thing," Mason whispered. "I found surveillance footage. From that night. Your mother, she didn't just work there. She was the one who gave the order to cut the power during Benny's final treatment. The one that allowed him to escape. She helped him?" Jade asked, her voice cracking. "She tried to stop it. The abuse. The illegal experiments. Benny wasn't always a monster, they made him into one. She was the only one who cared. The others punished her for it." Jade's knees gave out, and she collapsed into a chair. "Why me?" she whispered. "Why not go after the doctors? He already has. You're the last piece. His obsession isn't just revenge anymore, it's rebirth. He thinks killing you will close the loop. Set his story right." Mason handed her a photo, black and white. Faded. A young nurse, smiling, holding a child in her lap. The woman was her mother. The child. That's not me, Jade said, confused. No. It's him. Benny. Jade looked up, stunned. Your mother used to care for him when he was just a kid. He imprinted on her. She was the only love he ever knew. And when he lost her, something in him broke. I think he sees you as her reincarnation. He's not just trying to kill you. He wants to keep you. The room went cold. Jade couldn't move. Couldn't think. Her breath came in shallow bursts. Then the lights went out. Again. Mason reached for a flashlight, but the batteries were dead. The emergency light in the hallway kicked on, barely a flicker. Then they heard it. The creak of the fire escape. Metal groaning under heavy, wet boots. Jade grabbed the bat. Mason reached for his drawer, pulling out a pistol. Bathroom. Now, he hissed. They ducked into the tiny space as the sound of glass shattering tore through the apartment. Heavy footsteps followed, slow. Measured. Mocking. Mason held the gun steady, sweat pouring down his face. The footsteps paused. Right outside the bathroom. Then. Scratch. A slow scrape of metal against the door. Not trying to open it. Just teasing. A sound to drive you insane. Jade covered her mouth, tears rolling silently down her cheeks. The doorknob twisted once. Twice. Then stopped. Silence. Mason exhaled, turning to Jade. But before he could speak. Boom. The door exploded inward. Benny burst through, arms like meat hooks, grabbing Mason and slamming him into the mirror. The glass shattered, raining down like crystal shrapnel. Jade screamed. Mason fired, point blank. The shot echoed, but Benny barely flinched. The bullet grazed his shoulder. He grabbed Mason by the throat and squeezed. Bones cracked. Eyes bulged. Then, with a wet, horrible snap, Mason dropped, lifeless. Benny turned to Jade, cocking his head like a bird studying prey. His breathing rasped beneath the mask. He stepped toward her. Jade ran. She bolted through the broken door, through the wreckage of Mason's apartment, and into the stairwell. Benny followed, relentless. Unstoppable. Down 3 flights. Out into the rain-soaked alley. She ran until her lungs burned, slipping on the slick concrete, ducking between dumpsters and alleyways, headlights and shadows. He followed. Always just a few steps behind. Not running. Just, coming. Jade finally burst into the old Westbridge ruins, the only place left to hide. The asylum had been closed and condemned for over a decade, but something inside called to her. A pull. A memory. A fate she hadn't chosen but couldn't escape. The halls smelled like rot and time. Mold crept along the walls like veins. Old hospital beds were overturned, rusted and bloody. She stumbled into the treatment ward. That's when she saw it. A crude shrine. Bones. Dolls. Scarecrow masks made from skin and hair. Polaroids of every victim, pinned to the wall in the shape of a human heart. In the center was her mother's ID badge. Burned around the edges. Then, her own photo. Pinned beside it. A name etched beneath it in dried blood. Mother. The door slammed shut behind her. Benny stood there, breathing heavy. Mask soaked. Blade in hand. Jade backed away, tears streaming. I'm not her, she pleaded. I'm not your mother. But Benny didn't speak. Just raised his hand, and pointed at his heart. Then at her. Then the lights went out again. And all that remained was the sound of his footsteps. Getting closer. The night bled silence over Seattle, as if the city had taken a deep breath and forgotten to exhale. The streets were unnaturally empty, too empty for a Friday. The usual hum of nightlife, honking horns, and distant sirens had given way to a stillness that felt wrong. The kind of silence that made your skin crawl and your instincts scream that something was watching, something terrible. And it was. Benny was here. Somewhere. Kara sat at the edge of her motel bed, her eyes sunken, her hands trembling around a lukewarm cup of coffee. She hadn't slept since she saw Benny's mask in her bathroom mirror. The grin of that stitched burlap face, the hollow eye holes boring into her soul. Even now, hours later, she felt his presence in her shadow, her heartbeat thudding like a warning drum. Officer Reese stood near the door, his service pistol resting on the nightstand, his eyes flicking between Kara and the window every few seconds. "He's not supernatural," he said quietly. "He's just a man. We'll stop him." Kara shook her head, voice hoarse. "You don't know what he is." "Then tell me," he said. "Now's the time." She finally met his gaze. Her lips trembled as she whispered, "I was supposed to die." "What?" "I was born still. No pulse. For over 3 minutes. And then I came back. No one knows why. But the hospital said, that night, in the NICU, a man escaped the psych ward downstairs. Killed 2 nurses. Said he was trying to finish what he started." Reese went pale. Kara nodded. That man was Benny. Across town, Father Malik stood before a candlelit altar in a derelict church. The pews had long rotted, the stained glass shattered, but he still came here, where he first saw Benny as a child. Where the monster had returned, years later, wearing his father's skin like a coat. The priest's voice cracked as he prayed. "Deliver us from evil, from what was never supposed to walk among us." Behind him, in the confessional booth, something creaked. A shadow moved. A glint of rusted shears caught the candlelight, then vanished. Benny stalked through the alleys, dragging a severed limb in one hand, his shears glinting red in the other. His mask was soaked. Not with sweat, but blood, fresh and black in the moonlight. He wasn't hiding anymore. He wanted to be seen. He wanted Seattle to scream. He whispered names to himself. Kara's name last. He was nearing the end. But not yet. Not until she understood why. Officer Daniels patrolled near Pike Place Market, the radio buzzing with static. Dispatch was silent, too silent. No chatter. No backup. Every time she tried to contact HQ, all she got was a high-pitched whine and dead air. Something was jamming the signal. Or someone. She pulled up beside the deserted fish stalls, stepping out into the cold mist. Fog rolled in from the bay, thick like soup. The market's neon sign flickered above her, casting warped shadows across the cobblestones. Drip. 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 She turned. Something dripped from a hanging awning. Blood. A head landed at her feet. Then Benny stepped from the fog. Daniels screamed and fired, 3, 4, 5 shots. But he didn't fall. He ran. Not at her, but through her. He slammed into her body like a freight train, drove the shears up through her chin, and twisted until the bone cracked. Her body dropped. Twitching. Seattle, once again, had no voice. Kara and Reese stood inside the precinct, now barely lit and half abandoned. Everyone who could run had. The rest were dead. The building reeked of sweat and fear. Files lay scattered across the floor. Benny's file lay open. Reese looked at it. Born Benjamin Crow. Father, unknown. Mother, died during childbirth. Spent most of his life institutionalized. He flipped the page. His hand froze. "What is it?" Kara asked. Reese turned it to her. A photo. Grainy, black and white. A nurse holding a newborn. The baby's face obscured, but the nurse. Kara gasped. That's my mom. And the baby. Is you. A handwritten note scrawled across the bottom in red ink. They stole her from me. She's mine to take back. Kara stepped back, as if burned. He thinks I'm his. Reese looked at her, stunned. Jesus Christ. Suddenly, the lights flickered. Then shut off. Total darkness. Kara's breath caught in her throat. Then, over the loudspeaker, came Benny's voice. Garbled, warped through the system. You were dead. I felt your last breath. But they brought you back. They stole my silence. And now. I want it back. A scream echoed through the halls. Followed by dragging. And laughter. They barricaded the door with desks and cabinets, Reese gripping his pistol tight. We need to get you out, he said. There's an escape tunnel under the evidence room. It's old, but... Crash. The hallway door exploded inward. A cop's body flew through like a ragdoll. Reese screamed, go. Now. Kara ran, her heart hammering against her ribs. She slipped on blood, scrambled back to her feet, and plunged into the darkness of the evidence room. Dust choked the air. She shoved open the hidden trapdoor and crawled into the crawlspace beneath the station. Above her, she heard it. The sound of shears slicing through something soft. Reese's screams. Then silence. In the tunnel, Kara crawled through darkness and memory. Her mind was reeling, spiraling. Could it be true? Was she really his? She remembered flashes. Her mother's terrified face. A scarred man at her nursery window. Blood on her crib. She crawled faster. And then, light. She emerged near the old port tunnels, long abandoned. The ocean's distant roar echoed like a heartbeat. She stumbled forward. And came face to face with Father Malik, his face pale. I knew you'd come here, he whispered. Kara blinked, shaking. How do you know him? He was born inside me, the priest said. What? He confessed his sins to me when he was 10. Said he liked the sound of screaming. Said. He liked the sound of screaming. Said God whispered to him through the flies. He stepped closer, reaching into his coat. But I brought this. He pulled out a vial. Holy oil. If he bleeds, I can stop him. But we have to act, now. From behind them, a low growl echoed. Then Benny stepped into the tunnel. Mask glinting. Eyes burning. And Kara knew. It was her he wanted. Only her. The city bled silence. Seattle's skyline, once alive with sound and light, now resembled a graveyard with towering tombstones. Rain stabbed the earth in cold sheets. Police sirens were distant ghosts. Every alley seemed to hold its breath. Lily moved like a shadow between shadows. Her fingers were bloodied, her legs bruised from running. Her heart beat not with fear, but with focus. Her childhood memories had been shattered and reassembled like broken glass glued together with truth. She remembered now, her mother's voice, her father's final scream, and the faceless monster with the stitched grin watching from the doorway. Benny. He wasn't just a killer anymore. He was something else now. Something stitched together by rage, obsession, and an unnatural hunger to finish what he'd started. And he was close. She could feel him in the air, like static before a lightning strike. Her destination loomed through the mist, the old house. The place her family had died. The birthplace of the monster. A sagging two-story carcass on the edge of a forgotten road. She stepped through the door. It welcomed her with a groan, like something waking from a long, cursed slumber. Inside, everything had rotted. Furniture collapsed under the weight of time. Wallpaper curled like peeling flesh. The scent of mold mixed with the iron tang of old blood. Her flashlight beam twitched as she scanned the walls, finding a rusted nail where a family photo had once hung. Upstairs. That's where it ended. Or began. She moved slowly, every stair moaning beneath her weight. At the end of the hallway, she opened the door to the nursery. Empty. Cold. Haunted. She sat in the corner, shotgun on her lap, hands steady. She waited. And he came. The front door shattered like a gunshot. Heavy boots crunched glass and bone beneath them. Benny moved through the house like death itself, dragging his cleaver, the burlap mask hanging from one ear. His skin was scarred, misshapen. His eyes were hollow voids lit with madness. He climbed the stairs, footsteps thudding like a funeral drumbeat. He opened the nursery door. There she was. No longer a helpless infant. No longer running. She stood, shotgun aimed at his chest. "Hi, Benny." He smiled beneath the flap of mask. "You came back. You've hunted me since I was a baby. I think it's time I return the favor." He stepped forward. She fired. The shot blasted into his torso. Flesh and burlap erupted in a cloud of gore, but Benny didn't scream, he laughed. A gurgling, monstrous laugh that didn't sound human. He lunged. She rolled aside, racked another round, fired again, his shoulder exploded into red mist. Still, he came. She fled into the hallway as he staggered after her, dragging himself, bleeding and laughing. She made it to the attic. Locked the door. On the other side, Benny rammed it, over and over. The old wood buckled. She drenched the floor in gasoline, yanked a matchbook from her coat pocket. Her hands trembled now, not from fear, but from the weight of choice. Benny burst through. The two stared at each other. The monster and the survivor. "I should have killed you in that crib," he hissed. "You didn't." She lit the match. "I win." She dropped it. The fire erupted like a demon unleashed. The attic was swallowed in a storm of flame. Benny roared, charged, and tackled her. They crashed through the floor into the second story. Wood splintered. The house groaned. Lily crawled, coughing, the heat blistering her skin. Benny rose behind her, burning, screaming, slashing blindly. She grabbed a pipe, swung it. Crack. He fell through the weakened floorboards into the living room. She followed, limping, bleeding, nearly blind from smoke. She saw him rise in the flames, a flaming scarecrow stitched from horror, towering one final time. She lifted the shotgun with her last ounce of strength. And fired. The blast shattered his chest. He collapsed. The fire consumed everything. Later. Ashes fell like snow over the ruined house. Lily was found by firefighters, alive, barely. She was carried away on a stretcher, whispering one word. Done. But the blaze never revealed Benny's body. Just scorched burlap and melted boots. Somewhere in the woods, miles from the city. A shack. Inside, a hunched figure stitched by lantern light. Burned fingers pushed a needle through blackened burlap. A new mask was taking shape, smoother, tighter, crueler. He looked into a cracked mirror. One eye burned with vengeance. She thinks it's over. He pulled the mask over his face. She's wrong. He stood. The scarecrow danced again. The end.